What's going on, everyone? It's Justin here, and welcome to a brand new condo makeover series for 2021. So I'm super excited about this property, and I know we just finished up a previous series of the office loft makeover where I purchased a 20-year-old office loft mid last year and kind of turned it into like an industrial style lounge and also an area where we film all of our YouTube videos and work out of every single day. So that office is ready. I'm fully moved into that. But late last year, I came across this piece of property, and with some of the series that we had in mind and the partners in the home industry, I decided that this one did make a lot of sense. So one thing that I'm doing very differently in this series that I feel like adds a whole level of excitement to it is actually letting you guys decide what to do in terms of the design. I know a lot of these projects so far, or pretty much all of them, have been my own design, and I might have like occasionally posted a poll on Instagram, and your input definitely made a huge impact in terms of what I wanted to do. And so I feel like this is one where you guys can really get involved. So first, go ahead and subscribe to the channel and follow along on the series, but also follow me over on Instagram at justin.tsc if you guys don't already, because I'm going to be posting every single decision that I have to make, whether it is the stone, the countertops, the color, the different configurations, the lighting, the faucet color. Every single thing is going to be a decision that you guys are going to be able to have an impact on. I'm going to give two choices for everything, and both of them are going to be pretty solid options, so there isn't really a wrong answer, but whichever one wins, I'm going to go with. I'm going to be going over some of the initial poll results and talking about them right after I give you a tour of this empty condo. I know a lot of people like to ask like what my full-time job is and how like a media company or a YouTube channel is able to purchase 2 properties within a year. So I'm actually launching a course coming up soon called Creator Cash Flow, and that is going to teach you like the business side of YouTube and like a fully transparent look at my business journey on the YouTube side. YouTube is the core of my full-time job, and as a media company, we actually employ 5 people. So in the course that I'm going to be launching soon, it goes into like a deep dive of like the business world and strategies of negotiation and working with brands. So if you guys want to go ahead and sign up for the newsletter and the free PDF deck coming up, I'm going to drop a link down below. So in this video, I'm going to give you a tour of the empty space. I'm going to walk through the kitchen, the before state of everything, and I'm also going to talk about like the finance side and also some of the initial design decisions of the place. Just like a bit of a spec rundown. This is around 850 square feet. At the price that it was at, I felt like it was a pretty good deal because both of the bedrooms are a really good size. And so yeah, it's got 2 bedrooms. It's an AirBNB zoning. The building is about 10 years old, so it doesn't need like any structural things that we really have to change to it. We can just take everything out and start the renovation right away. So without further ado, let's go ahead and walk through the space. And I know it's like a pretty decent setup already, but I feel like we can make it much better. And I'm really excited to go with a more traditional look in this space. So as always, drop your comments down below in terms of your input, but let's just go ahead and get started with this tour. So some of the key things that I noticed in this space that made it like possibly a decent investment, I know it's too early to tell, is the fact that the windows are absolutely beautiful. As soon as you walk in, you can see a great view. It is a corner suite, which is something that I personally really like as well. And you've got one bedroom on this side that is where the sun comes up, and the master bedroom is on this side. So here we are in the master bedroom, and I know a lot of people love to watch videos of like bedroom decor and all that on YouTube, and that is an area that we haven't really covered in quite a while because the last property was obviously an office, and instead of having a bedroom, I ended up putting 4 desks on the top. So in this space, it actually has 2 bedrooms, as I mentioned, and the plan is to do each one a little bit differently, but of course still tie everything into the space. So far, the plans that I have is to do an accent wall on this side, just some wainscoting, and it is going to be like a contrasting color. The walls are going to be white, baseboard of course is going to be white as well, and with this room being the master bedroom, it is about 11 feet by 10 feet. It doesn't have like an inset wall like the other bedroom does, so instead of putting a dresser right here, I might do like a console table and then a Samsung frame TV, which blends in as art. Over there you have the closets, so I'm not really worried about not having a dresser. Both rooms are really good size though, because they can at least fit a queen size bed as well as 2 nightstands. But now let's go ahead and take a look at the closets along the hallway that lead into the ensuite or Jack and Jill bathroom setup. So as you walk through the hallway of the master bedroom, you have a closet on each side, which is the layout that I love, and I actually don't see that often, but it just seems to make a lot of sense. You have kind of like a his and hers setup, and in the place that I live in, I actually have that in the master bedroom as well, and it leads right into the ensuite bathroom, but I personally use it for like camera gear and office office equipment because I have my desk in the master bedroom. Some of the plans that I have for this is that even though it has a nice mirror, it just doesn't look very high end. So we're gonna be cutting the drywall all the way up because it is totally hollow, and just doing some custom millwork that allows it to feel a lot like a hotel closet. So now onto the bathroom. This is definitely one of the areas that is a lot smaller in this place, and I would even say for a 1-bedroom suite, it is a relatively compact layout. But in this case, you've got 2 decently sized bedrooms, so in some area you're gonna lose a little bit of space. And so you've got like a sliding door that leads to the master bedroom, and you have another door that leads out to the general place because it's the fact that it's shared. So right now you've obviously got like a sink right here, not too much storage, the toilet and a bathtub. And the plan is to redo this entire bathroom, and the biggest priority is going to be making it feel a little bit bigger, both from like a visual and also storage perspective. The other thing is this sink takes up a lot of space, so we're just gonna have one that goes in, which means we can raise the countertop a little bit more, and that will allow us to have a bit more storage. And I'm gonna try to see how we can optimize the storage on this side. When it comes to the shower itself, I'm planning to keep the bathtub in, probably replace it with something a little bit newer, but instead of taking out the bathtub altogether, you do have to keep in mind for like investment purposes, say somebody has like a small family, young kids, or they have a pet, it's much easier to have a bathtub instead of just doing a large shower, as nice as that would be. The shower head is actually on the top already, which is perfect. You have like a nice rain shower. The only other thing that I'm currently planning is to do tiling from the floor to ceiling because there's really not that much room to fill, and we're just gonna have the tile go seamless straight through the shower slash bath setup to once again reduce the number of seams and separations to make it feel a little bit bigger and also just higher end overall. So as always, one of the biggest areas that is going to see some change is the kitchen. And it's not only because it's the first thing you see when you walk in, but when you look out these windows, you have like this large view throughout. And I feel like the kitchen in this space, despite being relatively small, is going to be a huge factor. So right now it kind of has like this, I don't know, like it looks okay. It looks like it was made in 2009, 2010, which is when the building was built. But it came in an orange and also a like dark gray or black configuration. And the black one does look better, but it doesn't really matter. We're gonna be tearing it out anyways. But right now, I think some of the issues are really in the layout. And being a stock kitchen, it totally makes sense. The fridge right here is gonna be switched into a millwork one, so it blends in very seamlessly. I'm also planning on taking this wall out and reducing the physical size of the washer and dryer. They do make double stacked units that are a little bit smaller, but they actually have more capacity than the one right here. And that would allow us to have like a seamless cabinet that is the same design as the fridge, and also an invisible hood fan with the microwave moved over to this side. Of course, there's also gonna be a panel dishwasher and also a double waterfall island. So right now, I just feel like the kitchen is really compact. It has like a bit of an uneven spacing on each side here, and it just looks very standard. And I think we can really make the kitchen a nice centerpiece in the space. And I'm sort of leaning towards a lighter look with wood and also a light accent color and white countertops that just kind of flow out of the floors. Another thing that you might also notice is that the flooring is a bit all over the place. There's transitionals from the tile as soon as you walk in over to the laminate floors and then carpet in the bedrooms. And so the plan is to do vinyl throughout the entire space. So here we are in the other bedroom, and this one is actually a really good size. I've seen a lot of places around this price point, and even as 1-bedroom units, they sometimes have a den, and in many cases they actually don't. So to have a bedroom like this as a secondary was a huge selling point as to why I went ahead and purchased this property as an investment. It is able to fit a queen size bed, which is really nice, maybe even a nightstand or two depending on the size, but in terms of like length itself, at its widest point, it is almost 11 feet. It actually has a bit of an inset on this side, which is wide and very symmetrical. So it gives me room to be able to put like a dresser and also a frame TV here as well, which is all gonna look super seamless. And the plan is to do like vertical slatting for a trim on this wall, just to make it feel a little bit larger in a way. It also does have its own closet on this side. And for some people, they might actually like to stay in this bedroom more than the other one, just because it is where you get the morning light. So the sun comes up on that side. It isn't too harsh, doesn't get as hot during the daytime, because I've been here on certain days and I've seen the master bedroom just have the sun shining right through it. So yeah, this is actually a really good space to rent out by having the 2-bedroom and being able to sleep 4 to 6, for example. And if somebody's living on their own, they could even just throw like a desk in here and it's a pretty solid home office setup. Before we move on though, I want to give a huge thanks to the sponsor of this video, Monday.com, and their all-in-one workspace that allows teams to effectively collaborate. So with such a renovation project like this, obviously I have my day-to-day, which is YouTube videos, and that takes up a ton of my time. I also have a clothing company that I co-own, and with like a renovation project that is going on at the exact same time, it is really hard to juggle and keep track of everything without an effective workspace like Monday.com. Some of the most important features is that it is very easy to adopt and get everyone on board. It's also very flexible. It's able to have everyone accountable, and it's also very easy to collaborate and engage in the different directions of workflow and ideas as well that all coordinate within a fixed schedule. The framework really enables the feature media team to manage various workflows and processes such as creative requests, approval processes, and also keeping track of when different things arrive and when they're going to be installed, and ensuring all the different teams in and out of the property don't collide within each other in terms of the scheduling. I think especially with renovation projects, even after doing 3 of them in just 2 years and seemingly like learning a lot over this time, I still feel like it is a constant juggle of like the scheduling, delays, things not being done in the time that they're supposed to, maybe some issues here and there. And these projects just never finish on time, and being on top of it and having everything in a nice visual workspace is just going to help a lot. What I really like about Monday is just how dynamically visual it is. So for example, if I like to use Gantt charts, it is able to show the progress of where everything is in a percentage basis and in a grid, as well as like some fun ones such as their llama race, and it shows which part of the process is nearly done and which one needs a lot of work. As I mentioned, the way you construct your workspace is essentially limitless. There are just so many ways that you can really customize it to work with the way that you would like to. So if you guys want to go ahead and check it out for yourself, I'm going to leave a link on screen and in the description section below. So now that you've seen the empty space, I'm sure a lot of you guys are wondering what type of design I'm going to be going for this. And in my first property, the one that I'm in right now and my personal home, I went with like a relatively like safe design that had a bit of like a farmhouse look in some areas, but an ultra modern look in others. Generally speaking, it was very monochromatic, and I do want to add a little bit more color, but you might have seen in the Loft series last year, I went for a complete 180, a dark kitchen, dark counters, a lot of like dark wood and walnut, and also a ton of matte black paired with a white undertone. And I know that was one where like some people have commented that it's a little bit too cold, maybe too bland, but the whole intention of it was for filming. It definitely does have like a lounge vibe, and for the purpose, I'm really happy the way that it turned out. But for this next property, as soon as I walked in, the entire intention was to go a more traditional route that was modern, but at the same time had a lot of common touches that most people are going to enjoy. So because of the large windows, I'm going to make it super bright. We're going back to white stone, light colors, and also some contrasting areas with some wood. It is going to follow like a very light theme, and the only areas of contrast is going to be on the large walls in the bedroom. I did really find some inspiration online in terms of the sort of style that I'm going for. And when it comes to like looking at the other 2 projects that I've done in the past, from a lighter one to a darker one, I think I like things from both of them. I mean, I really like black paint on walls. I think it has like great contrast. And in my first renovation, I really didn't go with many colors because I was just a little bit scared to try new things. But I will say, after having like a light and a dark countertop, I do prefer having a light one. But when it comes to kitchens, I really like the dark contrast, but I feel like for this one specifically, having a more like open concept and seamless look with the light colors is the way to go. In like the ultimate home, I've also had a few things that I've always wanted to do, and I was able to do that on some areas of this project, but not in others. So for example, I've always wanted herringbone floors. Because of the rounded look, it really won't look good, so we're not going to do that. And when it comes to a kitchen, it's going to be the first time I'm doing a millwork fridge in partnership with Fulgur Milano, and we're also going to have all the other appliances to go with that, including an electric stove, a millwork fan once again, and also a drawer microwave. There's also one touch though that I feel like will be very controversial, and a lot of people have been trying to talk me out of this, and that is doing like a media wall in the middle of the living room. So what is a little bit weird about this is that even though you have like a really nice rounded view of the whole city, it's just so like open and refreshing, there really isn't a space for the TV to go. And before, it was kind of shoved in the corner, and I saw like a render on like a Russian interior design page that had like a slatted millwork thin wall in the middle of a room, and the TV was on it, and you can also have like your PS5 or whatever on the bottom. So I decided I'm actually going to do this towards the far side of like the open living room. And even though it is like gonna be something that you see as soon as you walk in, I am planning to make it relatively thin, and I'm also planning to have a desk fold out on the back. So whether that turns out nice or not, I really don't know, but I'm trying to be a little bit more experimental, especially with an investment property. And I do think using the corner piece as like a bar stand will be very effective. So now let's go ahead and take a look at the first round of polls and the results that came from them. I'm also going to be showing you some of the polls that are going to be going up next right after this video is live, so make sure you go ahead and follow me on Instagram if you haven't already. So the first thing we had to figure out was obviously the kitchen, because the lead times right now are quite long, and if the kitchen isn't decided beforehand, I'm gonna be stuck waiting a very long time. So the company we're working with once again is Cabico, and Thomas & Birch in Victoria is the supplier and the ones installing it, and we've worked with them on all the kitchen projects in the past. And in this one in particular, we're using their Elmwood line, which is their highest end material that has self-healing qualities and is also very durable. And I gave two different options, whether it was like a dark wood combo or a light one. And low-key, I wanted the light one to win. I felt like the dark one was, even though it looked really good in person, after doing two different types of kitchens, I felt like this space being so bright really needed to embrace it. And I had the kitchen company go ahead and post this on their page, and the light color actually won. So this like kind of cream tone is actually called Phoenix, and it is very similar to the light tone that I did in my own kitchen, which is a bit like an oyster color, like a light chalk, and it's just better than having a plain white cabinet. The wood, on the other hand, is also like a nice light-ish finish. Definitely not like too light to like the point where it's like an oak color, but I think it's gonna look really, really good. The next thing, of course, is the flooring. And these two options actually look very similar. One of them is actually called Warm Ash, and I ended up using it in the retail store, and the other is a bit of a brushed oak finish. And I actually couldn't decide between them at all, so for this one, I really wanted you guys to go ahead and vote, and the one that won is the brushed oak. So that one is like just a bit lighter, and the floor that was in the place before was like a bright yellow bamboo finish, as well as some tile. So I think this is like a good middle ground of something that has like a bit of color, but at the same time is still relatively neutral to the point where the place doesn't look like it's like too warm in terms of its tone. So that one actually did win by a landslide, but from the samples themselves, they actually look pretty similar now that I'm looking at it. So moving on to the countertop, quartz is the choice, and Silestone is going to be the company once again. And the bottom one is the Calcutta Gold, which is the one that won. It's actually the same one that I used in the backsplash of my previous project, but in a gloss finish as opposed to a satin. And the other option is one that has like larger veins and is very minimal. And to be honest, I think both of them look very good, but after seeing Calcutta Gold in person, I'm very happy with it. So I was fine with either of them winning, but Calcutta Gold takes the cake. And the reason why I think this one won is just because it looks a lot like real stone, whereas the other one, it does have like a bigger contrast between the veins and the white finish, so it can look a little bit fake to some people. Another area that is also going to be having stone is in the bathroom. And for this bathroom, it is a relatively small one and it's shared between the two bedrooms. So I feel like I do have to make it quite nice just to like really improve it from what it looked like before, because it did look kind of dirty and like stuff was faded. The quality wasn't that good. So I actually took the whole bathroom and brought it down to the retail store. And so it actually got reused, which is really nice. It all just fit. But in the bathroom, I was planning to do tiling from floor to ceiling just to make it feel very seamless, high end, and also a little bit bigger. So these two options right here have like a traditional option and one that is like a little bit different. The bottom one is just like a white standard like marble look, and I thought it looked pretty good, and I've seen a lot of like properties start to use that. But the one above is actually the one that I personally liked more as well, because it just had like a lot more character to it. It is gray, it's just not like the clean white that you see everywhere, and it's being installed actually right now and it looks amazing. What I found very interesting about one of these polls that I threw up though is how you guys kind of like the one that had like a gray look as opposed to like a very traditional one. I feel like the kitchen does really fit the scheme of the top option here, but the bottom one goes with the tile that you guys also chose, so I guess it all kind of makes sense. And with my audience being like very male dominated, I'm not really surprised that you guys picked the bottom one, but I actually like both of these options and would have been happy with either. Obviously, one thing that we can't forget about is the paint. And starting with the main color that goes throughout the entire space, it was either a choice between Swiss Coffee and Chantilly Lace. And the inspiration that I got from Swiss Coffee is from Studio McGee. They seem to have like a great light aesthetic, and I've always used Chantilly Lace in all my properties. All the walls in the office, as well as in my own place, have just been like the pure white, and Chantilly Lace is essentially the whitest white that you can get, to the point that it almost looks like primer. So I put this up and I was totally willing to kind of change to whichever color that you guys picked, but Chantilly Lace won again. And even though Swiss Coffee looks a lot more yellow than it actually does, I'm guessing, in person, I'm totally happy with Chantilly Lace because that is just going to give it a nice crisp look. But I do kind of worry because in an Airbnb, the walls might get like dinged or smudged. In the next set of poles, we also have two other colors, and this is for the accent wall in each side of the bedroom. So where the headboard is going to be, I figured we would do like a contrast in color just to give it like a bit of character. And I think for one of the rooms, we're going to do like a deep navy blue, and the other, it's going to be like an olive green. And even though I'm not like the biggest fan of like green as a color, it actually does look pretty good from the images that I've seen. So these options right here are deep royal and pale navy, and even though they're very similar, I will say the pale navy looks a lot more like gray. So you guys actually picked a deep royal, and it's still like a very subtle navy, but I think it will look really, really good. In the other room, there's Royal Orchard and also Vintage Vogue. And once again, very similar. The Vintage Vogue does seem to have a bit more gray to it, but Royal Orchard was the one that won by a little bit. So it looks like we do have all of our paint colors decided, starting from Chantilly Lace, which I guess is very on brand. So in the next set of polls, it is going to be all about the furniture, and whether it's the color, the fabric, and the different types of options, Rove Concepts is hands down my favorite furniture company, and I've used it in all my places, and I literally just like every single thing that they make, to the point where I almost want to get the same things that I've had in previous places. But obviously that's boring, we're not going to do that, so I'm going to let you guys vote on which one you like the most, and from there, we're going to order up the furniture, and once the entire place is done, you're going to get to see it like staged and interior designed, and just everything coming together over the next few months. So as I mentioned in the start here, the property was about 850 square feet. It is around 10 years old, and I purchased it for about $550,000 Canadian. And this is one that was listed a few times. It had an assessment price from the city at about $630,000. And I actually haven't really seen anything too similar in terms of the size, the number of bedrooms, and also the price and year built since I purchased it. So looking at it even like a few months later, I feel like it was already a pretty good price, but my intention with purchasing it was not only to have like a nice investment property that I could also rent out as an Airbnb, but one that I could also make a whole YouTube series on. And obviously we do make a decent amount of money off of these renovations as well, due to the sponsors and the partners that we work with, as well as the discounts that we get from the renovations from promoting brands within that. So I know a lot of people might say these renovations are relatively expensive and it might not make sense to spend that much on like an investment property or like for an office, but in a lot of cases there is promotional value, so I definitely do keep that in mind in terms of how I budget these renovations. The other thing that was also very attractive about this property though is that it does have Airbnb zoning. So in the city that I live in, only certain buildings have the rules that allow you to have it as an Airbnb and rent it out with zero restrictions. So whether I rent it out for 1 day, 2 days, or whatever, there's no like 30-day restrictions, and other buildings even ban the whole Airbnb thing completely. And there's like always like pros and cons of security, but from an investment perspective, being able to Airbnb the property is super, super important. And this property in particular was able to rent out for over $3,000 a month from Airbnb. And if you want to just let a management company completely handle it and not have to like touch or do anything or manage all the cleaning, then you could also rent it out to them for $2,500 a month as a flat rate, and they will take care of it in terms of short-term rentals. So just based on that alone, that covers the entire mortgage of the property. And when it comes to the financing, there's personal side of purchasing property as well as the corporate side. And because I'm purchasing it with my media company, there are different rules. And I ended up putting a 25% down payment on the $550,000 purchase at an interest rate of just about 1.5%. Usually in a personal property, you can put between like a 5 or a 15% down payment, but in the case of a commercial one or one owned by a company, usually they're gonna want a 20 to 25% down. And in the case of my office, it was 20%, and for this property, it was 25%, but the interest rate was lower. For this, I did go ahead and get a mortgage broker that was able to find me the best deal from the banks, and it ended up being the same one that I used in the other property that I purchased last year. So overall, the process was relatively smooth, but some of the other things that you also want to look out for when purchasing a condo is also like all the strata documents, if there's any special levies coming up or major repairs that every single resident has to pay for, as well as the insurance documents, which is very important because this building in particular did have a water claim, so the actual insurance premium was a lot higher than usual, and you have to see if there is an insurer that is able to cover that entire deductible just to ensure that you're safe and never run into a situation where you have to fork up a ton of cash because you're not insured for the full amount. So luckily I was able to find insurance, but these are all like areas of due diligence that you want to look out for in the process. So yeah, the whole intention with this property is to renovate it throughout this next year of 2021 and document the entire process on YouTube. And once it is all renovated, put in some nice furniture as well as like great tech pieces and like little fixtures and turn it into kind of like a tech loft experience, because as YouTube reviewers in the tech industry, I do have access to a lot of the coolest tech. So I did figure we would leverage that with the series as well, and then eventually rent it out as a high-end Airbnb, maybe do a long-term rental, and if it makes a lot of sense, maybe even sell it. It really does come down to which works best, but I've always wanted to have like an Airbnb just to see what the management side was, and I feel like you can definitely learn a lot from that in the beginning before handing it off to somebody else to run automatically. The other great thing about Airbnb-ing the property is that I can actually go ahead and use it to film anytime. So because we film so many videos, you've probably seen this set a lot of times. You might have seen The Office as well. And I just like to have a little bit of variety. So by having access to this property when I want to, or block off certain weeks when friends are visiting, that is just a great thing to have as well because it is relatively close to everything else and in downtown. So that pretty much wraps it up for episode 1, where we give you an empty tour of the space, and by the next episode, you're probably gonna see the floors that you chose over on Instagram installed. All the stuff's gonna be like demolished, and we're just gonna take it all out, put it on Facebook, see if somebody wants to buy it, and for the appliances, we usually sell it and actually get pretty good money for stuff that is relatively old, especially in that loft where some of the appliances were like 20 years old. So yeah, the plan is to just start the demolition process. The planning process is underway. So look out for some of the polls that are going to be coming up by following me over on Instagram. As always, if you guys enjoy this, make sure you drop a like, subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you all in the next video.